Welcome back to Badass Websites here in BOMU. We're currently in Module 2, Building Your Pages, Lesson 4, Your Other Pages. In this lesson, you will learn how to structure and design your other important pages. So we've talked about the home page, we've talked about the About page, and we've talked about your Work With Me page. Now we're going to talk about a few other of your core pages. Your other important pages include a contact page, a content feed, and content posts. So let's start with your contact page. This page provides a direct line of contact between you and your visitors, and it's incredibly important for the user experience of your site. Your contact page will provide answers to questions not answered elsewhere on your site, increase trust in the brand, and keep you from losing conversions. So obviously it's important to provide answers to questions that are not answered elsewhere on your site. But increasing trust in the brand, the reason it does this is because sometimes people want to know that there's a person or people behind the business they may want to do business with. So giving them a direct line of contact where they can talk with a person and via email, and not just a bot, not just a knowledge base is very, very important, and it really helps foster trust in the brand. And then it keeps you from losing conversions because people who have questions about your offers on your Work With Me page, if there are unanswered questions and no place to ask them, you can lose that conversion right then and there. So we don't want that to happen. A Contact Me page can be very beneficial to your site. Quick warning. Do not add your email address to your contact form. You don't want data scrapers to go through and pull your email address off your site and use it for spam. And do not add your personal phone number for the exact same reason. You don't want to get spam calls on your personal phone number, and you will if you add it to your site. We do recommend using a contact form, and if you do that, make sure you use accessible Recaptcha, and what I mean by that is don't rely on a Recaptcha that requires them to be able to identify pictures or identify sounds, because it can be difficult for people who are hearing or visually impaired. So adding one that's just a checkbox that can help keep bots and keep spam off from filling out your form would be great, and it won't inhibit the use of your site for those who are visually or hearing impaired. So let's talk about the difference between opt-in forms and contact forms real quick. This is a really important thing, and there has been some confusion in the past, and it's really important you know the difference. So an opt-in form, these forms are used to allow someone to opt into your email marketing. They are actually giving you permission to send them marketing emails. Whereas a contact form, those are forms that allow visitors to seek support and ask questions. They are not opting in for marketing. So you cannot add people to your email list from a contact form unless they give you explicit permission to do so. You can do this, and you can get permission to do so by adding a little box to your contact form that says, hey, would you like to receive emails from me in the future, marketing emails about my offers and all that stuff. If they check that box, then you can add them to your email list. Otherwise, a contact form is just a way for them to send you a support request or ask a question. It's not meant to be used as an explicit consent to add them to your email list. Okay. Another note regarding your contact page, consider adding commonly asked questions and answers to your contact page. So if you notice that you're getting some commonly asked questions, go ahead and add a little a toggle or something on your contact page where people can actually see the questions and the answers to commonly asked questions. And this could actually help them so that they're not sending in those questions to you and you're answering them over and over again. But it also, it will help you and keep your support, requested support down to a minimum. All right, let's move on to content pages. So you'll have two types of content pages on your site. You'll have a content feed page and content posts. So let's talk about the difference between a content feed and a content post. Content feed, this is the feed that shows all of your posts in order of their publication date. So typically they're posted in reverse chronological order, and it's the feed when someone typically goes and clicks on blog on someone's website, they click on that, they go to their content feed, which shows a list of all their recent posts, and then they can click the button to go and view older posts as well. A content post is a page that contains the actual post content. So when you write a blog post, for example, the page that content shows up on, that's the post itself. A content feed is kind of a list of all of the posts that you've made on your site, and both are very important. So let's go ahead and look a little bit closer at a contact page wireframe and some different content feed and content post wireframes. Okay, in this example, we're looking at a contact page, and I've done a couple things here that I'd love for you to kind of consider in your design. So we have our H1 header right up here, a little bit of information here where you can set expectations for the response time for those who are submitting a request or want to contact you. You would set the expectation here that you're not going to be responding right away. It might take a day, it might take a few hours. Set the expectation here. And then over here, I actually created an example of how you might do commonly asked questions. So if you had people asking, how do I access my account, or different things like that, you can address those commonly asked questions here, super easy. And then onto the right, this is the contact form. People can fill that out and submit it. This is just a general wireframe, so you can design it however you would wish, but I do recommend that these elements are there. Now, if you wanted to add a checkbox where people could choose to opt into your email list, you can do that right below the box. Just make sure when you do this that the little checkbox is unchecked and it is not required. You cannot do that. That is against the GDPR. And so you have to give them the option to select that and then before they submit, to opt into your email marketing, because this form itself is not an opt-in form. It is just a contact form. And then again, we have our footer and then our global opt-in at the bottom as well. All right, let's move on to the content feed pages. So here I'm showing you an example of what you could do for a podcast for your content feed page. So I do have a hero section up here where you would do the H1 heading. That would be your podcast show name. You have a description of your podcast here. Maybe you have buttons where they can go subscribe on their favorite app. And maybe you have your podcast cover image here. When you scroll down, an option would be to add a search bar so people can search through all of your published content. It makes it so much easier for people to find the content that's relevant to them by making it searchable. And then what you would do is you would have your latest episode highlighted somewhere at the top. And most designs that have content feed page designs will allow you to do that with the latest episode. And then you'll see the past episodes as you scroll down. And people can click in to go to the page the actual content post page that you have set up for that. And then they'll be able to click to go view previous episodes. Again, we do recommend that you have a global opt-in even on your content feed pages to optimize for lead generation. So we have an example of that here. And then we have a footer at the bottom. Okay, in this example, this is similar to a podcast, the podcast feed page that we just showed you, but this is different because it is a blog. And so you'll notice that the section at the top is actually, it just says blog, which is fine. You don't need to have a fancy heading at the top of your blog feed page, but you can also choose to do something similar as what we showed you on the podcast feed page if you wanted to do that. So this is just an alternate example. And then we have the search bar, and then the content down here is exactly the same or similar to how we had it structured on the podcast feed page. Again, we have our global opt-in section for people to get right on our list. This actually, I'm sorry, this is a freebie opt-in section instead of a global, but you can also do a global opt-in here. And so either one is fine, but you want to make sure you're optimized for lead generation. And I will say a freebie section will always convert better than a global opt-in. Okay, so here's another example of a blog feed page. You can also do this for a podcast feed page. And the difference here is that I included a sidebar. So a sidebar can be very beneficial for you to add your opt-in or your freebie there to add more information and to get people to link over to your other content and offers as well. So I added the search bar here instead of at the top. We've got a little opt-in here. I apologize for this little icon here. It was supposed to be up there. It's a little glitch in the design. But you can see there's a little author bio. And then on the sidebar, you can highlight one of your offers, categories of your content. You'll see a global opt-in at the bottom if you weren't going to put the freebie there because the freebie is already in the sidebar at the top. And then we have our general footer at the bottom. So this is another option. Sometimes they allow for the content feed page to have a sidebar. And this is an example of how you might use that to really optimize it for conversion. Having the opt-in, the freebie, above the fold would be beneficial. All right, let's talk about the content posts. So if you were actually using your content, if your content was a podcast, here's what a post might look like for your podcast. So you'll have a featured image for your post, and then you'll have your episode title, you'll have your meta information, you'll have the featured image. I also added an example where you can have social share buttons up here so they can share your content. You can embed your podcast player right below that so they can listen to it if they so choose. And then you'll have your show notes at the bottom, maybe some links where they can subscribe on their favorite app, and some related episodes, and a place for them to leave a comment on the post. We also have the global opt-in option in this design, and we have the footer. And we also have a sidebar. So generally, when you're looking for a design for your site, you want to have a sidebar available for your content posts at the very least. Having it on your content page is also very beneficial. And then this is where you're going to be able to add the search bar again. You're going to be able to optimize for lead generation with an opt-in, do a little author bio that'll go to your About Me page, showcase maybe one of your offers, and then showcase some categories for common topics that you talk about. So it makes a very good user experience so that people can find the different content you have on your site, and you can optimize it for lead generation and sales. All right, in this example, we are looking at a blog post. So this blog post layout is it's very common, this exact structure. So you're going to see it's pretty much the same as the podcast post, except for we don't have the player, and we're actually doing more content than just the show notes. So you'll see you have content, you'll have a header, and remember the title of a post, whether it's the podcast post or it's a blog post, the title will always be set to H1 by the system. But when you write the content, you'll need to be putting in the headings in the content, and you always make sure that it's H2 or below for the headings inside of your content. And here's an example of how you can put just a graphic or an image or something where they can click through to go get one of your freebies. You can make that relevant to your topic, some more content. We've got some social share buttons again at the bottom, related posts, and a place for them to leave comments. We've got our global opt-in section and our footer again. And then again, on the right, we have our sidebar. We have our search bar so they can search your content. We've got our freebie right up at the top above the fold. We've got an author bio section linking to your About page. We've got a section that shows latest posts. This is also an option if your design allows for that. We've got more categories so they can find common topics you discuss. And if you wanted to showcase some of your offers, you can do that as well on the sidebar. So that is it for this lesson. Below this lesson, I'm going to add a button for you to go look at our wireframes that we created for the contact page, the posts, pages and the feed pages, and they're all going to be in there for you to be able to look at these wireframes. I also have more wireframes examples in that doc, so be sure you come back to the portal here, click the button below this video, and check out that document with those examples. So let's recap real quick. In this lesson, you learned how to structure and design your other important pages on your site. We covered the homepage, about page, and work with me pages and other lessons. And this lesson, we talked about your contact page, your content feeds, and your content posts. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about important do's and don'ts of your website navigation. This is a very important lesson, so don't miss it. I'll see you there.